Hello, my name is Michael, and today we're going to be covering camera movement. So I finally made the game look a tiny bit better. I found a map, and so today we want to be able to move our camera around the map. So right now when I hit play, we can't move the camera or anything. So if we want to be able to move the camera, we're going to have to add a script to it. So I've already created a script that's empty, camera controller, so we'll add it to the camera, and now let's edit that script. So if we want to move the camera based on the user's input, we're going to have to check some of the input axes. So we should record what the user is doing right now. So input.getAxis, and we want to get the horizontal axis. So that'll get us a number between -1 and 1. Based on if the user is going to be holding down whatever the horizontal input axis is, which is normally A or D on the keyboard at least. And we're going to want to do the same thing for Y input because we want to be able to move our camera up and down as well. But we'll be using the vertical movement for that. And to put them together, we just can say this.transform.position plus equals new vector 3, and we can put in our X input and our Y input. Oh, I always find I type way worse when people are watching. That's okay though. And there we go. Okay, so that's very, very simple. So we should be able to move our camera now if we hold down A, D, W, or S. So, oh, yeah, we certainly can, but it's way too fast. But yeah, we can see we're moving our camera around. Okay, good. So we probably want to add a few parameters to that. Whenever you're using the input function and getting continuous values, so like a floating point number, you're always going to want to multiply your values by time.delta time. And that's so that no matter what the frame rate of the computer that's being used, the movement will be uniform in terms of time, because this returns the time in seconds it took to complete the last frame. So that's how much movement we should give it based on how long it took to complete the last frame. We should probably also add in a few properties up here and say X movement sensitivity. I will just call it X sensitivity. And this will be if we think that our movement's too fast or too slow, we can modify these sensitivities later. So we should also multiply these values together. All right. So now that we're multiplying by delta time, time.delta time, obviously it should decrease our movement speed by quite a bit, because obviously it takes far less than 1 second to render a frame. Probably we're running at 60 or 90 frames a second right now. And yeah, okay. So you can see I can move my camera around, but it's pretty slow. And that's what I was talking about here, these sensitivities. Let's increase them. So let's put them to 3. That's better. Maybe even 5. All right. Pretty good. So now we can pan around, and of course there's a nice black border here as we pan our camera around. Okay. Another feature that we probably want to be able to do is to zoom in. So to do that, we're probably going to want to change the camera's size. So here we can see my camera is very zoomed in. I have a size of 2 on this orthographic camera. And if I change this property on the right hand side of the screen, you can see it zooms the camera in and out. And that's exactly the functionality that we want. So we want to be able to change the zoom, and probably what we're going to want to do, probably we'll want to use the mouse scroll wheel for that. So we want to get scroll wheel input. And before we even do any of that, we probably want to get the camera component on this object. And that's just so I don't have to use get component every frame. So I'm going to do this just in a wake. So I'll only do it once. There we go. Okay. So now we can use this variable here, this camera, and say this camera.size, orthographic size. And we're going to want to be changing that depending on the scroll wheel input. So get mouse button. I believe there's actually an axis for mouse scroll wheel. I'm going to have to look here though. Let's go to the input. You can see here on the right hand side there's this input manager and mouse scroll wheel. Okay, So we want to get an axis called mouse scroll wheel. Okay, fair enough. Get axis, mouse, oh, and that needs to be a string. Okay. Okay, and then we change our orthographic size by that much. Now, we may want to put some limits on this so we don't start zooming into negative values or zoom in too far, like 1. So we probably want to do some sort of clamping. So we may want to set some mins and maxes for the zoom. So the smallest size we can allow the user to zoom into is probably 1, is probably fine. And the max zoom, we probably don't want them zooming above 10. So we're going to use these two values up here, and we're going to say this.camera.orthographic size. Ooh. It's this camera, not this.camera. All right. Equals mathf.clamp. And we probably actually want to just put this all onto this statement here. So we're going to add them together, whatever the current mouse scroll wheel value is. However, we're going to clamp it between the min and the max. So min zoom, max zoom. So the value returned is going to be anywhere between min and max. That's what it should do. So let's see if that works. The value may be too small. Okay, there we go. Yeah, I can zoom in. Now, the problem is it is inverted to what I'm used to. So when I scroll the mouse wheel forward, it zooms out, which is definitely not what you'd expect. So the easiest way to invert that is simply you put a minus sign somewhere in the equation. That'll change it. So there we go. When I zoom in, I can now zoom in, and I can zoom out, and we have a max. Oh, the max is pretty big still. That's okay, and I can move my camera around. Oh, that actually looks pretty good. Alright, now, unfortunately I still can just scroll off into the distance, so I am going to have to add some camera bounds to stop the user from scrolling off, and that'll have to be done in the future.